Hey friends, hope y'all are doing good. Today I want to just sit down and have a little chit chat with you, reflecting on some of the things that I've learned through starting a business that wasn't aligned with my spirit, and what that taught me and where I want to go from here. A little context to this story. Many years ago, my husband and I opened up a food truck. We served modern Chinese cuisine. We called it the Chinese laundry truck. It's a little inside joke and a little wink at the French laundry. If you know, you know. The LA food truck scene was extremely cutthroat. We had our tires slashed, our life threatened, just a few amongst many colorful stories and experiences. And maybe one day I'll get my husband to sit down and tell these stories on camera. My husband was the one that worked on the business while I had a full-time job. He hustled really hard for many years until we were finally taking off and becoming known for our noodles. While everything was going really well, COVID happened and it completely shut our business down. So during that time, we started toying with this idea of bottling some of our most popular noodle sauces and selling it. Because at the time, it seemed like a scalable idea and a logical next step for a business that was shut down. But before we could move forward, I had to leave and go to China and take care of my dying mother. And many months later, my mom passed away. And that's when this internal landslide was triggered. It's as if all of the shame that I have ever carried but swept under the rug within the crevices of my body just all bubbled up all at once and then wrapped me inside and overnight calcified into this hard shell around me. It was a hard shell, but also a fragile one. Because I was in such a fragile state caused by shame, I felt like I needed to do something, to produce something so that I could prove my worth. And so instead of taking the time to heal and grieve, I decided, okay, I need to do something and I need to make a choice between either growing this YouTube channel while building a homestead or pursue the bottled sauce idea. And I guess for my extremely fragile ego at the time, it felt safer to hide behind jars of sauces, because I totally convinced myself that was the logical and the more realistic path to take. And that's how my business, the Chinese laundry sauce brand, was born. At the time, my dad had also come to live with us. My dad is a successful businessman and a classically concerned Asian father. He never missed the chance to remind me caringly of my age and of how behind I was and how much I need to catch up. So in order to avoid taking responsibility for my own directions and also avoiding bringing on more shame onto myself through possible failures, I deferred to all his advice and ran the business the way that I thought would gain his approval. Now, the story isn't all bad. I know right now it just sounds like I spent years working on a business that was born out of self-betrayal, which is true. However, I also learned a ton during this time. I learned a lot about how to run a business, and more importantly, I learned so much about myself. Yeah, looking back, I almost feel grateful that all this internal turmoil happened and that all the shame that were hidden inside of me and in my psyche rose to the surface for me to observe and for me to experience and for me to finally reject. During this time, I adopted this mantra, which is this popular saying that you might all have heard before: do it scared. Every time I did something that had the potential of receiving a no as an answer from someone, which in this business was very often, I was extremely scared to do those things, but I did them anyways. And then over time, the fear started to diminish a little by little until after a few years, I feel much stronger. I have gained my confidence back. And so perhaps making the aligned choice wasn't what I did, but this business might have been the medicine that I needed in that season of my life. Right, Laichi? Do you agree? I felt like starting a business was like throwing myself into some kind of dojo or training ground called Entrepreneurship, where every day I show up and voluntarily receive a beating until the hard shell of shame that had formed around me was no more intact. It was covered in a web of cracks. I used to think that entrepreneurship was hard because it's so risky and demanding. But now I understand that the real challenge is in me healing my relationship with myself. And a healthy relationship can't be built on lies. And what is shame other than a bunch of lies that used to be told to us about ourselves by other people that later we slowly adopted as lies that we tell ourselves. And so I see that the first step for healing my relationship with myself is to stop believing in these lies and to become radically, brutally honest with myself. Like, can I call my own shit, and face my own fear, squash my own doubt, and dress my own wounds? And all of these things I must do without any self-pity, but with understanding and presence. So that's the real work that is happening behind the scenes, behind all the true success stories. So to continue with my story, as I stood there inside this dojo of entrepreneurship and ready to carefully peel off the cracked shells of shame, I decided that it's time to take on a new identity. A new identity to celebrate the loosening grip of my ego and also my newfound courage to finally be loyal to myself. And so today I am excited truly excited, not just like, oh, I'm so excited to tell you this and that. No, I'm very excited for myself to present to you this rebrand that I've been working on since last summer, and it's called Superlova. Clap, clap, clap. Superlova, Superlova, supernova of a lova is one who loves radically, one who loves the trials and the lessons and the shackles and the freedom, the ego and the truth, the spirit and the form, the magnificent and the insignificant, the high and the low, the sweet and the bitter. Well, I think you get it. It loves, because this brand is born out of the ashes of my shame, and it taught me over the last 3 years that even though I wasn't doing what I wanted to do or how I wanted to live, there's still valuable lessons that can be learned. No time was ever wasted. No energy was ever wasted. Everything happened for a reason, and I am grateful for it all. And so even if the idea of a superlova, one who loves so radically and expansively, even if that is an ideal that is impossible to reach in this dimension, I would still like to create a brand that would act as a reminder for us all to just love regardless. And I think that's especially needed in the times that we're living in. Even though I regained some sense of courage, unsurprisingly, the dojo of entrepreneurship didn't really give me a break or graduate me. I felt like it just leveled up and gave me an upgraded membership. Our plan was to launch this rebrand at the beginning of January, but since the beginning of this year, this launch has been pushed back several times. Now it's still not launched because of manufacturing errors, packaging delays, leaking lids, broken hardware, and now we are faced with tripled cost on our ingredients due to this tariff war. I don't think I'm ready to give up yet, but I also know that as long as I'm honoring my creative energy, how it shows up and manifests is nothing to get too attached to. The most important work I have now is in undoing all the shame that I've been carrying, because unless that work is being carried out, there is no real lasting success in anything that I decide to do. And if you're into astrology like I am a Scorpio sun, rising, Aquarian moon with a stellium in my 12th house. So seeing the world through a metaphysical lens has always come naturally to me. I've had plenty of mystical and psychedelic experiences that I wouldn't trade for anything. But no journey, no trip, no vision has taught me and shaped me more than this gritty, uncomfortable, relentless process of building something in the real world while trying to stay loyal to myself. As poetic as my worldview is, the truth is the real spiritual practice isn't in escaping the body or the business or the everyday mundane work. Spirit and matter aren't at odds. We don't need to choose one over the other. They're simply two different textures of the same thing. one of the most sacred gifts of this dimension is getting to shape spirit into form, to alchemize vision into food and emotions into jars and longing into actions. So at this ripe, curious, and still figuring it out age of 40 plus, I would like to learn to honor all of it. The spirit, body, mind, ego, intuition, awkwardness, and grace. I want to try and love it all. And I want to try and be a Superlova.